We now want to understand how data is presented in Google Analytics reports. In order to understand this, we have to understand the difference between dimensions and metrics. Now, dimensions describe the users or websites. So in that sense, we are either talking about website characteristics or user characteristics or the actions of users when we talk about dimensions. On the other hand, when we are talking about metrics, we are talking about numbers or ratios that can be associated with the dimension. So in the example on the slide, you can see that city is presented as a dimension, and there are several instances of this dimension, like San Francisco, Berlin, and Singapore, right? And then it also shows two different metrics. So the area of a city is a metric, and the population of city is another metric. Okay, so this is the example that you see out here. Now, another way of thinking about this is that the first column that you see is a defining feature, and the subsequent columns describe that define that particular feature in terms of some numbers, right? So let's go further into this idea of dimensions and metrics and look at these examples. Browsers, the names of browsers, or the names of mobile phones, or the name of the landing page, or the name of the products purchased, or the days of the visit in terms of the Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, like the name of the week. So are these dimensions or are these metrics? Or which one of these are dimensions and which one of these can be thought of as metrics? So take a break, think about that, and then come back to watch this video. Well, actually, all of the examples that I presented in the last slide were all dimensions, okay? And because none of them were really numbers, right? All of them were some kind of defining features related to users, right? Or to the websites. So for example, the name of the browser, right? This is each user can have one or more browsers of different types on their devices, right? They could own an iPhone or a different phone, right? So these are all dimensions. If you come to metrics, these are numbers. For example, the number of unique visitors to a web page, right? Or the average time spent by a user on a website, right? In terms of minutes, you can think about that. Or the average time spent on a page on a website, or the conversion rate of users as a percentage, or the abandonment rate as a percentage. Okay, so we'll talk about each of these metrics a little bit more in detail as we go along, right? But the bottom line is to realize that the dimensions allow you to group your data into different buckets, right? So for example, you can think about users coming from the Firefox browser and then behaving in a certain way on your website, or users using the Chrome browser and then behaving in a certain way on your website. So therefore, using the browser as a dimension, you are grouping your users in based on the browsers that they are using, right? So this is one very important way in which you slice and dice your web analytics data in order to understand it better. Now, when we classify the metrics, you can think of page level metrics or user level metrics. So now we are going to talk about different types of page level and user level metrics. So first, let's talk about some page level metrics. So the page views, the number of page views, is the most standard and the most common metric at the page level, right? Now the question arises that how can the page views be measured by Google Analytics, right? Every time a user requests to view a page, this request is sent to the analytics servers, right? And therefore, this number of requests are therefore counted, and this becomes the number of page views, right? Now, as a default code that is included in your websites, whenever you set up Google Analytics, the page views is always tracked. Okay, so this is the default. but you can do better than that. You can actually track all the events on a particular page. So for example, your page may show a video and there is a video play button out there. So if the user clicks on the video play button, again a request for content goes to the servers, and this request is duly noted by the Google Analytics servers, and this is therefore, and therefore with extra coding, not the default coding, but the extra coding, that customization that can be done, then with that customization, different kinds of events can also be tracked on the Google Analytics reports. So you can have page views, or you could have other kind of actions or events that the user engages in on a particular page of the website. Okay. Now let us take some examples to understand this better. Let us say a visitor goes to your website on a particular page, but then hits reload. Will this be counted as one page view or two page views? Well, and if you think about how the page views are counted, it really depends upon how many requests are going to the server to show the page. Whenever you hit a reload, you are basically issuing a new request to the server to show the page, and therefore this will get counted as two page views, right? Similarly, if a user navigates to a different page on the website during a particular session, but then they return back to the original page, this will once again be counted as an additional page view because the user made two different requests to load the content on this page. So this therefore becomes two page views. Now there is a difference between page views and another metric which is called unique page view, right? So a unique page view represents the total number of sessions during which that particular page was viewed at least one time, okay? So for example, if a visitor views page A on a website 3 times during a visit, okay? Now Google found that as 3 page views, but only one unique page view, right? So the uniqueness of the page view depends upon a particular session. If you visit that particular page multiple times in a given session, the unique page view count is incremented by only one, okay? But the page view count can be incremented multiple times during a session. Now, another way of looking at users' interaction with the page is through the entrance metric. This indicates the number of times that the page was the first that a user accessed in a session, right? So in that sense, the number of entrances on a page shows the relative importance of the page as a landing page on the website. The opposite of entrances is, of course, exits from a page. And so if you think of an exit page, this is the last page on a site accessed during a visit. And since this is the last page, it of course signifies the end of a visit or a session. Okay. Now, what is an exit rate? The exit rate is the percentage of exits from a particular page, right? So what this means is that a particular page may be viewed 100 times, but out of that 100 times, the user may leave the website 10 times, meaning the user does not navigate to any further page after that page 10 times out of that 100 times. So that means that the exit rate from this page is a 10%, right? A special name is given to exit from a page when a user is in the middle of an important process, like a checkout process. And then the percentage of people who exit from the middle of the process and do not complete this process is called abandonment rate. So abandonment rate typically is considered a bad thing because the user's customer journey was not yet complete, and therefore the user left the website in between an important part of the customer journey and did not convert, right? If, on the other hand, an exit occurs from a page, which is a logical endpoint of a customer journey, then it is not considered such a bad thing. Okay. Now, the abandonment rate can be divided up based on the part where the abandonment occurred. So you can think of a cart abandonment rate. This means that a user added an item to a cart, but left it at that and did not go forward, right? So this is a cart abandonment rate. On the other hand, a user may add to the cart and then after that move on to the next page, even add the delivery address, etc. But then abandon this checkout process at the point where the credit card information is to be given, right? So then this can be named as a checkout abandonment rate. So these different clarify that what is the step at which the abandonment occurred. There's another important metric which is called the bounce rate. Now, it simply means what is the percentage of single hit sessions on a particular website, or it can even be the number of a percentage of single hit sessions on a particular web page on the site, right? This means that somebody has come to the website and they left without doing anything else. They just came to one page and left from that page, didn't do anything else, did not navigate to any other page on the site. So when a blog, as an example, is set up and there is no event tracking, so there are no, for example, video plays that are being tracked, okay? What is the bounce rate that you expect from regular visitors? So we are talking about those kind of visitors who come and consume the content on a regular basis from this particular blog. Well, as you might imagine, these users who are regular visitors, they are up to date with most of the blog entries, and they come to the main page of the blog and read up on the newest entry on the blog, right? So they just visit that one page and they have really no need to go to other pages because they're already regular visitors. And since there is no event tracking, then you are unable to see that the user has actually involved themselves in something useful on the particular page that they were visiting, and they just left. So you might count all of these users as coming onto the website, but then bouncing. And you might think that therefore this is a bad thing because they're not really engaging with the website and going to multiple pages on the website. But that might not be true in this context because of the way that the website is and because of the way the users consume the content on the site. So in most cases, bounce rate can be considered as a bad thing, okay? But sometimes, depending upon the context, a bounce rate may not be such a bad thing. So in order to interpret whether bounce rate is bad or it's not really bad, you have to first understand the context. Okay. Sometimes bounce rate is seen to be high on websites that are built using Flash or other interactive technologies. Okay. So what this means is that these sites are not designed as having multiple pages, but it's a single long page and all the user interactions take place on this page. And because of such a design, the users will get all their information only by visiting this one single page. And so such a website will be seen to have high bounce rates, right? So if you want to avoid this situation, then it is very, very important to define additional events on the site so that you can then customize your reporting of the bounce rates and set it up in a way that whenever there are events like video views or other kinds of interactions that the user is doing on the website, then those kinds of visits of the users are not counted as bounces. Okay. Now, what's the use of the bounce rate? How can it be used effectively? Well, it is a good idea to actually segment the bounce rate from different sources, right? Different traffic sources, or traffic coming from different locations. By doing that, you will be able to see that if traffic coming from a particular source or a particular location seems to be disinterested in your website. Okay, and if that's the reason, then you can inquire deeper into the reasons why that might be so, and if possible, you might try to fix those reasons. Right. Also remember that when there is a high bounce rate, the first thing that comes to mind is that the users have left because they were not interested in the content they saw on your page. But sometimes this might happen because all the information that they needed is right there for them to consume, just like the blog example I was talking about. Sometimes it is also possible that if they came to the web page and they left without doing anything, it was just because of an expectation mismatch. Meaning, maybe they saw an ad and the ad design was not a good ad design. It set certain expectations in the minds of the users. And with those expectations, when they came to the page, they did not find the right content and therefore they left. So it may not be the fact that the content on the page itself is badly designed or is at a bad content. It may also be because of the fact that the expectation of the user that was set up before visiting the page was was a mismatch with what content they saw out there, right? So if you want to really understand, so you have to be open to these different reasons for which bounces may occur, right? And sometimes you can be helped by looking at another metric in conjunction with the bounce rate. So this metric is an average time per visit. So if the average time per visit is high, with of course the event tracking setup, so that you are not thrown off that somebody is visiting but not really doing anything. So if the average time per visit is high, then you can, and if the bounce rate is also high, then you can at least say that while the bounce rate seems to be high, users are still seem to be engaging with the website because the average time per visit is also high. Now let us contrast between the bounce rate and exit rate. So as you can see on the left, the bounce rate is the ratio of total one page visits divided by the total number of the times this page is viewed as an entrance page. Okay, so this is the bounce rate. Whereas the exit rate is the ratio of total number of exits from that particular page divided by the total number of views of that page. So now I hope you can appreciate the difference between them. When we talk about the bounce rate, the numerator is those exits that were one page visits. Whereas in the exit rate, the numerator is the T exits, which is the total number of exits from that page, right? So the total number of exits from a page is obviously a bigger number than the total number of exits that occurred from that page only in those visits of users that were one page visits, right? Similarly, if you look at the denominator of the two, right, the total number of views of that page in the exit rate situation is this total number of views is bigger than the total number of exits from the page so not the the total number of entrances in the page when we are talking about the bounce rate, right?